Hello, all you spry tubers out there. Welcome to Dames of Thrones Season 4 edition, where filmmaker, gamer extraordinaire, and the behind-the-scenes awesomeness known as Sesh, and the writing and directing sensation known as Maria talk shop on Game of Thrones. As for me, I'm Jonathan, and unlike our two experts, have no industry experience whatsoever. In other words, I like to think of myself as our own version of the Mountain. Heavy-handed, despised by all, and whenever I open my mouth, heads implode. And now, to your Dames of Thrones, Sesh and Maria. Let's get into it. So, favorite characters this season, guys?
She does stand out as just like pure. Like just she's nice. Like she just has that essence about her and it comes off really clearly.
Yeah, yeah, no, she's great. She's great. For me, there were two. I loved Oberyn Martell because how can you not love Oberyn Martell? I mean, he comes in with bravado and
Fancy,
that's right. And
confident.
yes, he's like
Lover of all.
go Montoya. Yeah, he's fantastic.
He is. Is he your official?
He's officially my favorite, but I will say that I did I know I might be cheating here because I know we did get to see a giant in one of the previous seasons, but seeing the Giants come and attack formation, and 1-1 the Giants. He's great. I like the Giants. I'm big with the Giants.
I like that. Yeah, Oberyn was mine. And speaking of his intro, I specifically wrote an intro of sexy times with everyone. He's absolutely like one of my favorites. And his and to jump ahead in the season, his speech to Tyrion about Tyrion's family and how he sees what monsters they all are and how he isn't a monster. Like the "I'll be your champion" speech is like one of the most hopeful, most hyped, inspirational moments of the entire series. Like it's a standout moment. So he takes the cake. Like he's one of my favorites. Like he's got his very directed hate for the Lannisters and for who he hates, but he's like very kind and gentle besides that, and like super passionate and empathetic, and he was a great character. Rest in peace.
No, it's so refreshing too, I think, in this show because we're here watching all of the rigidity and formalness in Westeros while they do like truly, truly terrible things. And it seems that almost Dorne is exactly the opposite. They're more laid back, they're more freer and fun-loving, not as rigid of a structure. And it was good to see. I think it was a wonderful, wonderful dichotomy that they showed there.
Yeah, I think I really liked how like they were less judgmental and like more laid back than like what we think like all of Westeros is like. Like it's nice to see that not every culture is the same.
Yeah, for sure. That is one thing that George R. R. Martin did a very good job of, I think, is that he was able to create, I'm not going to say super realistic societies, but at least different people with very different viewpoints and different governments that are at the very least believable that you can have, these differences, especially during that time.
Yeah, celebrating the sands instead of making them less than like the snows.
Yeah.
Is really, it was nice to see.
Yeah, really was.
All right, so juicy stuff. Who did you hate the most this season?
So for me, I really did not like Cersei. I felt like her reaction, I mean, I guess it makes sense that her reaction would be irrational seeing her son die and deciding it was Tyrion. But just the way she went about it, the way she kept hammering it, it was childish and small of her. And it just bothered me. She just bothered me the whole season.
Yeah, she's gone through a lot throughout the seasons, but I will agree with Maria there definitely that she didn't seem to care what actually happened. She wanted her vengeance. She decided who she wanted to blame for everything. And when terrible things happen, when you lose a child, or hopefully that never happens to anybody. But when something serious and traumatic happens, you can see that from time to time, where people are just so angry and so irate that they just want vengeance in the way that they deem vengeance is. But in this case, it seemed that despite, people going ahead and talking to her and saying that, hey, Tyrion didn't do this, she didn't really seem to care. She didn't really seem to want to find an answer other than that.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Like the question of what if it wasn't him? She literally would not care. It's like, good, he'll be dead. Like that would be her response.
And it doesn't do her son any justice.
No.
Exactly.
Because what if the murderer wants to kill the rest of her kids? She doesn't think of anything but her own petty desires.
beats. Like, it's great. That and I mean, just yeah, lots of their interactions were really funny, and like the way they got along, and I mean, later on when they go to the Vale, and they find out that Arya's aunt just died, and the way she just starts laughing maniacally. She found like just another relative's dead. Of course, like she just loses it, and it was so funny to me, and I thought it was so funny, and then she thought it was funny, and then I thought it was more funny.
Yeah,
Contagious.
I mean, honestly, the Hound and Arya, best comedic pairing I've seen in this show. Like, they need to get those two back together.
I hope so. I was very, very happy with it. I didn't make a funny note. I think I was very tired when I started writing this, but I did want to give a shout out. I mean, there's a few shout outs, obviously, but for pairings, I did Pod and Bree. When they were getting along like cheese. Yeah, I know. I was tired when I wrote that, but I did want to give them a shout out because I thought their whole thing, their interactions were very, very enjoyable as well.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, back to the chicken moment with the Hound. I identify with that so much. I think I turn into the Hound every time I get hungry. It's like, everybody just shut up. I need to eat some food. Like, don't bother me right now.
Your words are making me hungrier.
Exactly.
It's the sugar. It's a lack of sugar.
That's right.
The sugar diet. There were. I had two other like honorable mentions. There's a moment with Crazy Aunt having very, very loud sex with Littlefinger, and poor Sansa is within earshot.
Oh yeah. Got some issues with that lady.
Oh, so many issues, and Sansa's gonna have issues too. Like, even at this point, like just being there. There was another really, really great moment. Asandre and Grey Worm like finally kind of showing that they like each other. It's like, glad that you saw me, when she was naked and bathing. And it's like, oh, that's very interesting. That was a very good episode to also see with friends, at least this moment. And then his response was, glad I did too. And
man.
they are locked together. That's what that means. It's happening.
No, good flirtatious moments for sure.
It was very enjoyable. I don't know about funny for that particularly, but I wanted to bring it up because it was I ship them. All right, let's see, where were we? We did the why. We did our shocking moments, funniest. I think our next that we kind of skipped over a little bit was most exciting plot element introduced. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So for me, it was Daenerys starting to run her own city and also dealing with the complications of breaking the slave trade. I thought that was very interesting to see her dealing with it, and also what kind of implications that would give to the whole world. And I thought, cool.
Yeah, it is interesting, especially from a financial/business perspective, with the inner workings of the society there, but even in the real world with what happens when you go ahead and you take something away. You think, okay, I've done it. I've abolished this or taken things away. And I think in a lot of ways it can mirror our own history here in America when it comes to slaves and taking away slavery. And it doesn't mean that it just necessarily goes away. It means that other things come and follow it. It means that, there are going to be people who are still going to go about doing it. They're just going to call it something else. And so I think that was extraordinarily realistic, and it sort of shows that we have a lot of things in our mind, how easy it would be if it was just changed, and how life would be so much better if things were just changed. And we don't quite
think about the long range effects, that it's going to take a long time to do these things. It's going to take the immediate approach while continuing to supplement, that it just isn't going to go away just because you come into town and you stop it.
Yeah, I think it's cool that Daenerys is really trying to grow also and understand how to actually run a country in a honest way while dealing with dishonest issues.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
I thought. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
oh yeah, I mean it's just to see her try to begin to understand what government means and how to run a proper government is fascinating.
I completely agree. That's why I was jumping in so quick. I definitely thought that I was very impressed with her finally for like wanting to learn how to rule and be the queen that she wants to be. I thought that was extremely mature, and that was just such a great decision on her part. And to speak of the slavery in it, like that's an economic thing, and like this is the season we were also introduced to like the Iron Bank, and like we automatically like understand what that is without even having to go there and see it. There's an Bank, so like they already have like there's economies in work in this world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, like I actually, and this is, I know I've mentioned it before. Well, there was also a mention, I found this interesting too, because I figured one of you might pull up the Dany wanting to roll. I liked it, but I wanted to pull up the idea of like warging too long. Just mostly because it plays into my theory that later on Bran's gonna uh, warg a dragon. And so like I pulled that one little bit, that one little sentence out, just like, oh, maybe that's how like he's gonna end. He's just gonna be in a dragon body for the rest of his days. It's a very, very end game for the series. I just wanted to pull that out. But yeah, no, I think Dany wanting to mature was really huge. And there's actually a section I want to talk about her later on once we get through all our other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. I wonder if he would enjoy being a dragon for the rest of his life. He can fly.
Probably.
That's specifically what what's his face, the little guy says, is that you won't ever walk again, but you will fly.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh, I know.
Yeah. For me, most exciting plot element was that Littlefinger was behind everything. Littlefinger killed Jon Arryn. Littlefinger poisoned Robert Baratheon. I guess I should say that Lysa Arryn killed Jon Arryn, but still,
it was his idea.
It was by Littlefinger. That he pitted the Starks and the Lannisters completely against each other. That he was responsible for the killing of Joffrey. And to find out that he was basically the reason for everything that happened up to this point, for the most part, was really interesting to me, and showed a complexity to the series that I did not give enough credit to. So I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, his plots were definitely more complex than just betraying Ned in the Hall of Thrones with the guards. Like everything was so much more complex this season, and he's been laying those traps, and it super paid off.
Oh yeah, and he keeps going up in title and rank and standing, so he's playing the game really well. Probably out of everybody, the best player of the game that we have seen thus far.
So far. Yeah. So far. Okay, so I think we went through most of our lists except like the overview of the themes and the feelings with this season.
So yes, for me, it was. I feel like a big theme for this season was breaking through chains, basically breaking through different systems. For example, Daenerys breaking slavery, Tyrion breaking from his family, the wildlings breaking the barriers of the wall, Littlefinger murdering Joffrey, and Sansa getting her different set of freedom from the Lannisters. I feel like so many of these characters are now leaving behind a set of rules that they had to live by, and now are growing into something new. And I think that's it's fascinating to see where they're going to grow, what they're going to do, and that is a theme of breaking through, kind of shedding old skin.
Wow. You can tell you have directed stuff before. That's
Oh,
good.
thank you.
Yeah.
Did you have one? Like a idea
yeah,
about?
Not nearly as good. That's
Oh.
that's for sure. Yeah, for me, it was just a really good and surprising season, and it showed once again that no character is safe. The deaths of Oberyn and Tywin, Joffrey, Liza, they're all going to have far-reaching consequences for seasons to come. So really, I think that was one of the more interesting parts because I did not expect so many major characters to die this season, and where it would be going forward. The only negative theme I had did have to deal with Essos and Daenerys in that it seemed to plod along a little bit for me. Everything that happened in Essos, it will do so more next season. But it did seem that I mean, her exiling Jorah and putting away her dragons to replace them with Barristan Selmy and Hizdahr no Lorak. Ooh, oh, oh, don't like those decisions. So, but that was really that was really it. But at this point in the series, I was extremely looking forward to the next season, only to be sorely disappointed. But
we'll talk about that later.
that is correct.
So for me, like I think I noticed something very similar to yours, Maria, actually. And this scene had really stuck with me, and I kind of came back to it like anytime I thought about this. I was like, this is an actual theme for the whole season, and I think it was things that are one splitting. So there's a lot, like I mentioned, like all the saddest things or all the Tyrion things, and those are all like breakups. And the opening scene of this entire season is Tywin forging the two swords from Robb Stark's one sword and splitting them off. And it's a completely, there's no words in the entire scene, but it's just a fantastic scene. And I think it really just set like what the standard is for the entire season. And it's nothing except things being split off. So like even like the Lannister family, like they are split up at this moment more than ever, like or this season more than ever. There's I think at the end of the season, Brienne and the Hound fight at this season. Yeah. So like Arya and the Hound, even like Brienne and her oath, like just like there's just nothing except like things that are and were together, like splitting apart and breaking up. And I come back to that like that sword scene at the very beginning with Tywin and just like almost all these other like really sad, very powerful scenes, like even the Near Center Dragons. It just all came back to like this is symbolism for the entire series or season, I mean.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, can they hear me?
Yes.
But yeah, so that's what I felt like for this whole season, and like upon watching next season, things come together in different ways. So I'm doubling down on like this was my splitting up and breaking up season where like the bonds that were there are being broken and bashed, you know.
That's a cool point about the forging of the two swords and the symbolism of that. That's really
Yeah.
neat.
Yeah, like it didn't stick to me before, but this time I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
This has a theme.
It's
Alright.
nice to feel like the writer knows what he's doing. I hate it when I'm watching a show and it's just kind of, you kind of can sense they just kind of put it together and they're
Right.
not really thinking.
Right. Yeah, like this one was, I mean, I don't know if like that is a particular moment of a chapter of one of the books. Like obviously, I'm sure it's like something like does happen in the books where, Tywin takes his sword and it happens at some point, but I don't know if it's like off page. And it was just brilliant to put in the beginning, and there's just no words said, and it's just like so like it's Tywin's success, and it's literally based on the Red Wedding. Like that's why they have that sword. So it's been probably like the hardest moment in this series up to this point, and then like him celebrating it and kind of defiling it in a way, but also destroying it. I thought it was great. Okay, so there were two other things I wanted to see if you guys had. One other thing that I wanted to see if you guys had notes on, and one other thing I wanted to talk about, which I think explained a lot of our feelings in season 2, and maybe a little season 1 as well. First, do we have any theories that we wanted to make notes on in this, on like the watching and like what we were thinking? Because I know there were some things like there was a mention that the veil is a stronghold and that it's completely impenetrable, and that almost makes me think like I wonder if when the White Walkers come later on and they travel south, if that's going to be like a stronghold, last place for humanity where they hold up.
I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of curious to see if Lysa's son actually matures. Oh, you don't think so?
Nah.
Maybe he becomes like now without any bad influences on him, he might adjust. No?
without his mother's crazy juice.
I'm sorry, what?
Without his mother's crazy juice, maybe?
Wow. Oh boy.
Ugh.
But yeah, as a last stronghold, I don't know. I haven't actually thought of the Vale as a stronghold. I just don't see enough of the people at the Vale. I mean, I know there's some people that came to save the day.
I think it's as good of a theory as any. I mean, it does make sense that might be a place where the humanity in Westeros retreats to, especially if they lose in the battle at Winterfell.
Yeah, like I think it'd be something that would be overtaken by any human survivors. So it was a note that was mentioned that might be like one of those one sentences where like, oh, obviously that's where they'll go, and we find out in season 8 when they're doing that. There was one other thing that was mentioned, and I know we've talked about this, and Arya's swordsman, her dancing teacher, still being alive, and there was actually a back and forth that I wanted to pull out with the Hound mocking her, that if her swordsman was so good, he wouldn't have been killed by the guy she said he was killed by. Like, not at all. Like, he could have beaten him and 5 other fighters of his quality with a stick, and he wouldn't be dead.
Yeah, I mean, I hope he's still alive. I hope he is the faceless.
Yeah, Jaqen H'ghar.
Yeah. Because, maybe he did have a sword. Maybe, it was like hidden in his pants. Or something.
Well, according to the Hound, if he was fighting the guy he was fighting, there's no way he would have lost. Weapon or no weapon.
Intriguing.
Now, the only reason I would still say no to that one, and again, I guess spoiler alert, Meryn Trant is still alive later. We see him in a later season.
Yeah, very, very true. But I think it just held in. It gives the theory a little merit in my eyes. Like, oh, maybe he was really skilled, because I do believe he could be more skilled than this other guy. Meryn, like you said, who knows, faking it. I don't know. We'll see. Like, I don't want to put my chips in that, but it was like, oh, maybe thing I had to pull out.
Then again, if Meryn Trant and his folks were all were all beaten unconscious by a guy with a wooden sword, they probably wouldn't be telling anybody about it. So
Yeah, like maybe you just did that to them and then left, and they wouldn't because they'd be so embarrassed.
Makes sense.
All right, any other theory juice we got going for this season?
No, I haven't actually looked at other theories, so I don't have anything.
yeah, I don't have anything for this season.
Okay. So, new tangent. I don't know if either of you had read this. It's very interesting, and it's actually it was a great read. Recently, I think it was 1 or 2 weeks ago per our recording, Emily Clark released this article about how she suffered a horrible, life-threatening aneurysm.
Yes, I think she suffered multiple.
She did. So, yeah, she explains it was basically right at the end of like season 1. She doesn't know, what her career was going to do, what this random weird show was, or how it's going to like blow up. And she suffered this like horrible aneurysm, went to the emergency room. She was experiencing problems speaking for a long period of time where she couldn't even say her full name. It was just gibberish. And it was just like this horrible, scary, like career life ending experience, even, though she was lucky enough to have lived through it. And she was released and almost immediately went into production for season 2. And the entire time, like she explains how she was just in the back of her mind, she was thinking about the ticking time bomb for her next aneurysm, literally at the back of her mind, thinking how like it could end her career or end her life. Like she thought she was going to die that whole season. And I'm remembering about how much we hated on her acting the second season. And I think some of that was coming through, that maybe she was a little distracted, and that's why people noticed and may not have liked her so much in season 2. She was a little preoccupied.
Thanks for calling me out, Sash.
Me too. I didn't like her till she took the Unsullied. So yeah, like it was actually just really interesting, and it is very good to read something like that, because these actors are these characters, but they're real people on the side, and they got lots of other things going on. And I think it does actually say something on how serious this was, because she's a good actress, like she really is. But to see that there is that difference with like what was going on in her life, and like we could see it and like feel it, like just something was like off. Like you compare like the latest season or any of the other seasons compared to like what she was in 2, and it's like 2, yeah, she had something going on that was extremely serious, and like, yeah, I'm just gonna not hate on her for her acting in season 2 anymore. Like it was a very, very powerful read.
That's intense. It's amazing that I can't tell that she had an aneurysm. Like it's really amazing. Or multiple.
Yeah, what she went through was extraordinarily scary. And honestly, even when I was speaking about Daenerys in terms of a character in season 2, I didn't particularly like the character, but I didn't notice anything with Emilia Clarke's acting. Mm-hmm. I just thought that it was written, poorly for her character during that season. But it does. It could explain a few things if they either had to, in writing, change the script or limit the words or sentences she could say. And I mean, even in terms of her reading and interpretation of those lines, in terms of how she was emoting, it could explain some things there too. But from an actor standpoint, I mean, she's done a great job in her role here. Mm-hmm. So I definitely don't think, again, my dislike of Daenerys' character in season 2 was anything personal with the actress. But
oh yeah, definitely not. And I think I agree with you where it was definitely more so writing, but there might have been something reflecting off of this, and like you just don't know what people are going through.
No, and that's a good point. And this is, I mean, that's incredibly scary with what she went through and multiple times. And again, when something like that happens, you always worry,
It'll
about the
happen
future.
again, yeah.
Exactly.
And she's so young. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think she was 24 when this happened. She listed, and yeah, like it's just like emergency brain surgery, and like specifically told this could happen again. There's a ticking time bomb in the back of your head. Like there's another one. And so this will happen again at some point, most likely. She was super high risk for it to happen again, and then also going through the surgery once did enough where like she couldn't talk afterwards. Like that's all of the worst things happening to her.
Yeah, I mean, when you have damage to your brain, that is never a good sign.
Yeah.
That's scary. So, really, really glad that she's that she's feeling good, and that she was able to continue participating in the show that we know and love, and honestly, best of health and of course success to her in the future.
Absolutely. I'm so glad like she has been able to truly just become an icon, which is fantastic.
Seriously.
But I think that's all I had in my notes.
Right. Jonathan,
Oh.
you want to send us off?
Send us off. Ooh. Well, thank you, Spry Tubers, for all of your viewing pleasure for this episode. We will be back next episode covering season 5. And please remember to share, like, and subscribe if you enjoyed this show, and especially if you didn't like this show. Possibly share, like, and subscribe twice. And other than that, I guess we'll see you around on Dames of Thrones. Woo!